For most of human history, wolves weren't candidates for friendship. They were monsters in the dark. If you were alive 30,000 years ago, the sound of howling at night meant one thing: something out there could kill you before sunrise. You were slow, thin-skinned, and surrounded by predators built to smell fear from a mile away. Wolves hunted in coordinated packs, with jaws strong enough to crack bone and stamina that could run prey into the ground over hours. And yet, out of every dangerous animal roaming the Ice Age, this is the one we ended up sharing our homes with. Not horses, not cows, not even the primates closest to us on the family tree. Wolves. Today, there are over 900 million dogs on the planet. They sleep in our beds, guard our children, sniff out explosives, herd livestock, dig people out of avalanches, and sit patiently in tiny paper hats at birthday parties. But none of that was ever planned. No group of Ice Age humans sat around a fire deciding to invent a loyal, fluffy hunting partner. What happened instead was stranger, slower, and almost entirely accidental. And the wolves themselves may have set it in motion before humans even noticed it was happening. 20,000 years ago, a fire crackles in the dark somewhere in a frozen European forest. Around it, a handful of humans tear into the last of a freshly killed reindeer. Fat drips into the flames, and the smell of roasting meat drifts out into the cold night air, carried on the wind, all the way to the edge of the trees. There, in the darkness, a pack of wolves stops dead. They're hungry, and that smell is the promise of a meal for free. But getting close to a human fire also means getting close to a spear, so only a few dare to move closer. And it's those few, the calmest ones, the least jumpy ones, who are about to rewrite the history of two species at once. To understand what happens next, you first have to understand what these humans had absolutely no idea they were doing. Every single night, they left scraps of meat lying around. They were unknowingly running the largest natural selection experiment ever conducted on another species. The aggressive wolves, the ones that snarled, charged, tried to steal food outright, ended up speared or chased off with torches. The calm wolves, the ones that could hang back, wait, tolerate the smell of smoke and the sound of human voices without their whole body flooding with panic, those wolves got to eat, night after night. Modern genetics backs up what that campfire scene suggests. Some wolves were simply born wired for calm, and those wolves quietly outsurvived their aggressive relatives. Instead of risking broken ribs chasing elk or bison themselves, they could just linger near a camp and eat what humans left behind. Generation by generation, evolution filtered wolves by personality alone. The friendlier ones got fed. The calmer ones stayed closer. The hyper-aggressive ones kept dying off, one spear at a time. And this is the part that sounds almost too strange to be real, except scientists have actually watched it happen, in real time, within a single human lifetime. In 1959, a Soviet geneticist named Dmitry Belyaev started an experiment in Siberia, not with wolves, but with silver foxes. He wanted to know exactly how domestication worked, so he stripped the process down to one variable. Every generation, he bred only the calmest, least aggressive foxes he had. No training, no tricks, just temperament, selected over and over again. Within a few decades, those foxes were behaving like dogs. They wagged their tails. They whined for attention. They licked researchers' hands like old friends. But then, something even stranger happened. Their bodies started changing too. Ears went floppy, snouts got shorter, patches of white crept into their fur, tails curled upward. Belyaev never selected for any of that. He only selected for calm. Scientists now believe this happens because taming an animal's temperament quietly rewires a bundle of traits connected to the same biological pathway. Softer faces, smaller jaws, patchier coats, floppier ears, almost as an automatic side effect. Which means the very first proto-dogs may have started looking less like monsters and more like companions, long before any human ever intentionally bred them for it. Picture standing at the edge of an Ice Age camp and noticing that the wolves lurking nearby looked just slightly smaller, slightly softer, slightly less terrifying than the ones from your grandfather's stories. Not pets yet, but no longer fully wild either. Once that shift happened, humans stopped being passive bystanders. Dogs had proven themselves loyal, hardworking, endlessly eager to please, and that was never going to be enough for us. We wanted more. Somewhere, a hunter looked at his dog and thought, "This one's fine, but I need something that can track game through dense forest." So people bred the fastest dogs with the sharpest noses together, generation after generation, until they had a hound built purely for the chase. Somewhere else, someone thought, "Sure, but can it pull a sled through snow for miles without stopping?" So they bred the biggest, strongest dogs together and got exactly that. And somewhere in Siberia, around 9,000 years ago, someone apparently looked at those sled dogs and thought, "Yes, but can it fight a polar bear?" Because that's precisely what they bred next. Humans had officially taken the wheel of canine evolution. Most of the breeds you'd recognize today only go back 300 or 400 years, but every single one of them descends from those same proto-wolves circling human campfires 30,000 years ago. By around 4,000 years ago, some of the earliest identifiable breeds start showing up in the archaeological and historical record, and you can see exactly how deliberately we were now shaping them. The Saluki, a close relative of the Afghan hound, is considered one of the oldest breeds on Earth. The Samoyed was bred by Siberian herding peoples to hunt, haul sleds, and manage reindeer across brutal terrain. The Basenji, a hunting dog so unusual it barely barks at all, was used along the Nile in ancient Egypt. The Shar-Pei's deep, wrinkled skin wasn't a fashion choice. It gave wild boars nothing to grab onto during a hunt. And the Chow Chow, famous for its blue-black tongue, was bred as a war dog said to have marched alongside Mongol armies. Then priorities shifted again. Someone eventually thought, "This is all impressive, but what if I could just carry my dog with me?" That single idea gave us the Shih Tzu, the Pekingese, and the Pug, all bred in China to be small enough, light enough, and portable enough for nobles who wanted companionship without the commitment of a hunting partner. From there, the story only accelerates. As humans spread across the entire planet, their dogs went with them, into jungles, deserts, mountain ranges, and Arctic tundra. We kept reshaping them, no longer through slow, natural selection alone, but through deliberate, relentless choice, breeding for speed, for strength, for scent, for size, for whatever a particular life demanded. But underneath every one of the hundreds of breeds alive today, from a trembling Chihuahua to a towering Great Dane, lies the exact same origin story. A wolf that chose calm over aggression at the edge of a fire it had no reason to trust. A species that softened generation by generation simply by staying close enough to be fed. So the next time a dog looks up at you and somehow seems to understand exactly what you're feeling, remember what that look actually represents. It isn't just instinct. It's the result of an evolutionary experiment that started 20,000 years ago, around a fire, when one wolf decided that staying close to that flickering light was worth the risk. We didn't just invent the wheel, or the plow, or civilization itself. Somewhere in the middle of all that, without ever fully realizing it, we built a friendship that would outlast every empire we would ever go on to create.